Hey, how was lunch? Good? I, for one, had Chick-fil-A, AKA God's chicken. It was delicious.
I had a chicken salad and
Very
probably had a
healthy.
little too much.
How responsible.
Very responsible. Got to watch the figure here.
All right, how did everyone like our speakers this morning, by the way? How good were they?
Are you all excited to see Kimberly Guilfoyle? She's quite the incredible woman.
She is
so
sassy,
inspirational.
smart, beautiful. I love her, for one.
Working in news for many years now, I worked at a local CBS back in the day, worked at One America News Network. Yeah, thank you. I also work as a Fox 5 host in Washington, D.C. So watching Kimberly in her days at Fox, I mean, I really looked up to her. So it is such an honor to be in the same space as Kimberly.
Absolutely. Plus, tell me that her and Don Jr. are not the best power couple.
So we want to know, who were your favorite speakers so far? Judge Jeanine over
All
here.
right, everyone who loved Judge Jeanine.
What about Candace Owens?
Anna Paulina.
Yes. Dana Lash?
Charlotte Pence.
And we still have a huge lineup for the rest of the weekend. It's only Friday today. I thought it was Saturday for a second. And I thought I was flying home tomorrow, but then I realized it was just Friday. And some of the other favorites that I'm looking forward to seeing is Dan Crenshaw.
Dan Crenshaw.
Congressman Crenshaw.
Also, I heard a little rumor that Nikki Haley is going to be here. I mean, are you kidding me? When we're talking about how many strong women President Donald Trump has appointed to his cabinet, the first one that always comes to mind is Nikki Haley.
So I'm pretty curious about our crowd here today. How many of you want to work in news or politics? Okay. A lot of you. What about just news? Okay. Fake news? No one wants to work in the fake news media? There is a lot of fake news out there. I am not fake news.
We're not fake news.
Not at all.
We're real news.
Real news. I'm actually an opinion person, but I do tell stories. So I'm still kind of a journalist.
Yeah, you're an opinion journalist.
Yes, of course. So, and as for politics, do we have any women who want to run for Congress or be a senator or the president of the United States one day? That's quite inspiring.
That's amazing. I mean, this is not the Young Women's Come to Dallas and Listen to Speakers and Go Home Summit. This is the Young Women's Leadership Summit. So it's great to see people out here who want to make a difference. You guys are truly the generation that are going to disprove the liberal media stereotype that conservatives are just old white men.
And I don't love identity politics.
No.
You know, when people say, like, there should be enough of this and that. And you know, I will argue, though, I would love to see more women in Congress, but Republican women. You know, people that stand for my values, stand for the right to life.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about some of the things that the Trump administration has done for women, female unemployment is at an all-time low, right?
Absolutely.
50-year low?
50-year low.
50-year unemployment low. Can we get some cheers for that? There's never a better time to be a working woman. But of course, we should also always talk about, as conservatives, the importance of stay-at-home moms and women who work in the home. That's just as valuable as any job that you can take out in the world.
So we haven't really had any Trump discussions today.
No,
I'm a
not
huge
a whole
Trump
lot.
supporter. I was part of Trump's National Diversity Coalition. I guess one of the biggest things that I saw in the past couple weeks was his haircut.
Yeah,
How
did you guys
great
see that,
was
the
Donald
slick back?
Trump's fresh do?
Actually, can we
No one
see?
loved it?
Let's get a breakdown of that. Who likes Trump's original, like, toupee-esque comb over? Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Okay. Now, who loves the slick back? Okay.
Or does anyone just not like the hair at all? I don't see the enthusiasm in here is pretty low right now.
Oh,
I loved it. I saw that picture and I was like, good for Trump. I love that haircut. And I will argue he's one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with me.
I can't.
Yeah, she's a White House correspondent, so she
I
can't say
cover
anything.
Trump for a
But I
living,
can
so.
say it, and I am a huge fan. So, it looks like the lights are dimming.
Uh-oh.
I think it's Kimberly
somebody here?
Guilfoyle time.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Let's
Are you
give
guys
a
ready?
huge applause for Miss Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Zero. That's the number of days crooked Hillary Clinton has been president of the United States. Hey, ladies. There we go. You know, when you've got a Puerto Rican woman, that's how we get the party started, all right? Oh, yes. Sí se puede. Yes. It is amazing to be here. And with these glasses, I can see in the future. And let me tell you something, you are all in it. I bet you we have a future American female president in this room. Fantastic. All right, hello, ladies. It's so good to be here. I love it. We had a fantastic time last year, but I really want to give a special thanks from the bottom of my heart to Charlie Kirk and to Turning Point USA. You know, what he has created and what you have helped him build is truly remarkable in this country. He has given women like me, like you, a voice, a platform, a purpose, and now, believe me, they're all paying attention, are they not? We're gonna make them earn our vote. Well, Charlie is not just a true American patriot, he is a generous and genuine person who has given us the voice that we desperately were seeking for so long. And we're blessed to fight alongside him because Charlie, like President Trump, lifts women up. Thank you, Charlie. And I'm so thrilled to be able to speak to you all here today because I know that all of you are not only going to change the world, but that you, in fact, already are. And I want to thank you for fighting. I want to thank you for being women of passion and purpose and making sure that our voice, a voice of conservative women, is heard resoundingly throughout this country. Thank you. You are the ones that are making America great now and will be making America great for decades to come because you love your country. You work hard, you're brilliant, and you show the world what it means to be a born, free American woman. And I want to talk to you today about where we're going as a nation and how the women in this room, each and every one of you, and our sisters across the nation will help us get there. But before we talk about where we're going, and it is a beautiful journey, let's talk about where we are. So let's see. Nancy Pelosi. Yep. It's not fake news that at one time in my life I was related to her, but through marriage. The blood doesn't runneth through us, okay? Woo! Well, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats still are trying to decide if they're the party of big city liberals or of big government socialists, right? Mueller is riding off into the sunset along with his bogus witch hunt investigation, but President Trump is taking on China and Mexico, who have been taking advantage of America for far too long. He's putting a stop to it, and I'm happy to help him do that indeed. And another crazy, not fake news, yes, my ex-husband is now the governor of California. You should see those phone conversations I had between President Trump and Gavin Newsom. Aye, aye, aye. And most importantly, I could only divorce him once, ladies. Every Democrat, yes, along with these crazy liberals and everybody's crazy uncle, think Bernie, think Joe, have all decided to run for president, right? And the media, they haven't been getting any better. Yes, the prognosis is poor indeed, because a recent study by the Media Research Center found that 92% of media coverage about President Trump is negative. It is ridiculous what the First Family has to put up with on a daily basis, because this is in fact one of the greatest families that I have ever been blessed and privileged to meet and know, and they deserve far better than the way they have been treated. Take a moment to thank them for what they do. Yet these journalists are so confused when the president attacks fake news. And every time he does, he goes, those people back there, very dishonest, right? Fake news, and I love it. It never gets old. It's actually scary what's happening, because Pew Research put out a survey this week saying that 68% of Americans fear fake news more than they do terrorism. Can you believe that? That's how bad it's gotten. Well, it's no surprise that Trump derangement syndrome is still out in full force. Now, do you all know what Trump derangement syndrome is? You've seen it walking around, right? Oh my God, it's like zombie apocalypse. Well, for those of you that don't, it is the newly discovered disease with no known cure, because if you're a leftist Democrat or someone profiting from the swamp in DC, then you are forced into taking the opposite position as the president, no matter what or how unreasonable. So symptoms also include irrational emotional outbursts, AOC, sometimes resulting in apparent mental breakdown. We've seen it, right? Pocahontas. I'm describing it correctly, and it is crazy, yes. All right, well, what makes me laugh is all these Democrats who are now feigning outrage against President Trump and funding the border wall. It's just so hypocritical, because I remember a time not too long ago, last administration before that, when there was some bipartisan support for this issue. Border security, they were all for it. Every single Democratic leader, from Nancy Pelosi to Barack Obama to Joe Biden, supported a wall just like the wall that President Trump is proposing. Yep. I say build, you say? That's right, sisters. Okay, so we're gonna get it done. Big, beautiful wall. All right, so we're gonna get it done despite their attempts to weaken America, to make and leave our borders porous. We will not allow it, and certainly President Trump will get it done. And you remember even Clinton, Bill, not Hillary. No dice, mamacita. She didn't get into the White House, thank God. He even lectured, Bill, he even lectured about the importance during one of his State of the Union addresses. Now, because President Trump is the one fighting to secure our borders, they are all of a sudden morally opposed to it, and it's an outrage. They're totally against it, but sadly, it's because they know that it will be yet another promise made and a promise kept by President Trump. These Democrats may be dumb, but they're not all stupid. Yep. They know there isn't a chance, and you know what, to beat President Trump if they allow him to deliver on all his promises. And that's why they are trying to stop him with lunacy like impeachment and obstruction that they are doing, wasting flagrantly the taxpayer dollars of the hardworking American people. But President Trump isn't going to make that, he's not going to let that happen. So like many other things, they would rather stonewall than build the wall, all right? I say build. You know it. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you that might have worked with some of these other weak-kneed DC politicians, but not for this president. He is a fighter, and he is a doer. So put yourself in the shoes of a Democratic strategist real quick. And here's what you're up against in 2020, and it doesn't look pretty for them, let me tell you. President Trump has confirmed 2 new fabulous conservative Supreme Court justices, Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. Other administrations would have pulled the ripcord when the Democrats did their hateful smear attacks against Brett Kavanaugh, a phenomenal man, an incredible patriot, and thank God he hung in there, and President Trump backed him up. That's the kind of president that we have. God bless him for that. This is a man of strength and of purpose. And you remember when he removed America from that terrible Iran nuclear deal? We no longer subsidize people who subsidize terror. Another example of promises made and promises kept. He secured $6 billion in new opioid funding. Incredible, to save lives across this country when so many families have suffered. One of my favorites, because we stand with Israel, he moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. And he got our NATO allies to finally open up their wallets and forget about the Gator arms and give us a fair share of the money they owe instead of the United States paying all the bill. He signed Right to Try, which will give people like my dear mother and father who passed away from cancer a fighting chance at new drugs that otherwise they wouldn't be able to get. That's the kind of innovator this president is, literally saving American lives and bringing joy and peace to families that have struggled through cancer and other illnesses, and God bless him for that. Another example that I take dear to heart is the First Step Act. Incredible criminal justice reform by this president that was worked on so well by Jared Kushner as well. This is unbelievable. You saw him talk about this in the State of the Union. And guess what he was doing? Finally undoing the mess that Joe Biden created decades ago with his Criminal Justice Act, and something that Barack Obama failed to deliver on despite 8 years of being given a chance. Thank you, President Trump. And we have started building the wall along the southern border. And I guess what? Mexico is going to pay for it after all, because President Trump said, you will be our partner, or you will pay money for it. And now he is pushing forward, and he announced the plans for imposing serious economic consequences on Mexico, which are set to start in just a few days, and Mexico is paying attention, and advancements and improvements have already been made. The do-nothing Democrats and the typical crowd of complainers are responding how they always do. What they don't get or choose to ignore is that Mexico is a major economic partner of the United States. Yet, like so many countries across the world, they have not acted like good partners. President Trump will make them be good partners, right? Instead, Mexico's government is currently allowing criminal organizations to use their country like a superhighway for illegals sneaking into America. Over the last month, border agents have apprehended 141,000 Central and South American immigrants along our southern border. President Trump is going to put a stop to it, and we will support him. He is fighting back, and mark my words, he will win. But I often worry about those in Washington that wish failure on our president. You might not agree with everything that the president says on everything, but when you're wishing for a recession, or for the stock market to take a dive, or even worse, for more criminal illegals, drug and human traffickers to enter this country, I wonder whose side you might be on. With an election just around the corner, it's something you really have to think about. Well, luckily, I see the solution right here in this room, because I know you are all the type that will show up on Election Day. You show up to learn. You show up to work. And when President Trump is on the ballot next year, we will make sure that everybody shows up to vote. And it is important, if you still want to recognize the America that we all love, that patriots have fought for, everything is at stake in this election. Because since our incredible president took office, 5.4 million jobs, American jobs, have been created, and he promises 5 million more when he is reelected as President of the United States in 2020. 600,000 manufacturing jobs have been created. Unemployment claims have hit a 49-year low. The median household income is the highest level ever recorded. That's huge. And African American unemployment has reached historic lows. Hispanic unemployment is the lowest it has ever been. Asian American unemployment is the lowest it has ever been. Can you believe these stats? Women's unemployment is the lowest rate it's ever been in 65 years. That's President Trump lifting women up and putting them back to work. Good news for everybody in this room. Youth unemployment is the lowest rate it's been in half a century. You don't have to live with your parents forever. Just have a nice dinner on Sundays every once in a while. You will have a job and hopefully a really killer apartment. All right. Veterans unemployment is the lowest rate in nearly 20 years. God bless the men and women that serve this country. Nearly 5 million Americans have been lifted off of food stamps, and a record number of regulations have been eliminated. On average, 22 eliminated for every new regulation put in place. Promises made, promises kept. Are you ready for my favorite? All right. Maybe my all-time favorite, 0. The number of days crooked Hillary Clinton has been president of the United States. Oh, I love that one. I love that math. All right. But let me quickly backtrack for a minute to talk specifically about us ladies. Because the economy that President Trump has unleashed has women thriving. Since January of 2018, more than half of the new jobs, more than half, have gone to women. And now there are more women in the workforce than ever before. And this is the best. Women aren't just creating great jobs, they are creating and finding great jobs and opening up incredible new businesses. Women are the leading entrepreneurs, and we love it. More than 12.3 million women-owned businesses in the United States who are employing millions more, and get this, they're generating, these businesses created by women, $1.8 trillion in revenue. So women are in the fast lane, and we love men, we love them, we love them. We're not going to talk about toxic masculinity, oh boy. But sorry, hombres, because women are actually, and you're going to love this, more likely to start a business than men. And last year, there were more than 1,800 new women-owned businesses created. Every single day, 1,800 new women businesses. I mean, I love it. He's right. He can't stop winning. All right, look no further than President Trump's campaign and administration, by the way, to see what women are doing and making a difference. I am proud to serve as senior advisor to the re-election for Donald J. Trump for president, along with Laura Trump, Katrina Pearson, all serving as senior advisors. Kayleigh McEnany, who you will hear from during this incredible conference, is our national press secretary and doing a phenomenal job. And at the White House, we have Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president and first female campaign manager to successfully win a presidential election and deliver Donald Trump into the White House. Amen. Sarah Sanders, serving in the White House as press secretary. She's incredible. She takes no prisoners. Let me tell you what it's going to be. Betsy Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Education. Elaine Chao, Secretary of Transportation. Gina Haspel, CIA Director. And how about Ivanka Trump, our incredible Ivanka? Doing more than anyone else in any administration to empower women and to help create jobs, not just nationally, but globally, and God bless her for that. And how about our incredible First Lady, Melania Trump? She is amazing, and you should hear the president talk about her. It's wonderful. He said, I think you're actually more popular than I am. And she's been amazing representing us across the world, globally, and with her Be Best program against bullying, and she's just getting started, and we thank her for her service. And of course, we cannot leave out an incredible speaker you're going to hear from later on tonight, our former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley. Boy, did she kick some, you know what. All right, so you know what they say, ladies. We're not bossy. We are the bosses. That's right. So what does it mean, being a boss? Being a boss takes real work, though. So I want to share a few things that I think all these ladies I just mentioned have in common and why they've been so successful and why you will be. First, and maybe most importantly, it starts with rejecting the leftist victim mentality. We are not victims. We are strong. We are proud, and we vote and choose with confidence. Look at me. I'm Latina, a first-generation American. I didn't come from that's it. Thank you, baby. I didn't come from a wealthy, well-connected family. I was raised by a single parent, my father, after my mother died in the Mission District in San Francisco. But according to these leftists, I am supposed to believe I am a victim because I am a minority, a victim because my parents were immigrants, a victim because at 11 years old, my mom passed away and I was left helping my father to raise my little brother, a victim because I didn't grow up wealthy. Oh, and of course, I am supposed to believe that I am a victim because I am a woman. Not a chance. That's not how this girl was raised. My dad would always say, you're going to make history, Kimberly. And I think it's important for each of you to have that victor mentality. It doesn't mean you have to seek fame or power, but go gather as much experience as you can and challenge yourselves each and every day. If you test your limits, then the more success you will enjoy and the more history you will have to draw upon for your next stage and chapter and great moments in life. Be fearless. That's simple. And before passing away, my mother also encouraged that same pursuit in me, that same mentality and attitude and fighting spirit. And I remember in second grade, I was obsessed with soccer, still am. But my school didn't have a girls' team. Instead, my mom asked the coach of an all-boys team to give me a chance to show what I could do. She said, if she's good, she should play, and if she's not, basically cut her from the team, then she shouldn't. I mean, I was like, that's a little aggressive. And after she made her case, I had the chance to make mine on the field. And I was asked to join the team that very day. And then later on, my girlfriend, Karen Hirsch, had the guts to try out and make the team. And that's how we do it, one of us at a time, paving the way for the next. For me, my career started out in San Francisco. I was a prosecutor, as many of you know. And to win a case, I had to have a compelling opening statement, have all the facts at my fingertips, consider and anticipate different strategies, and know everything there was to know about the judge's leanings, pet peeves, past rulings, know the case cold inside and out. And this all took intense preparation. And it's how I earned my nickname, the Hurricane, while I was at the DA's office. And if you are not prepared for whatever task or challenge you face, you'll lose. It's that simple. Always be more prepared and be better than the person to the left or the right of you. And that's how we do it, and that's how President Trump does it. And for many of you, that starts now. if it hasn't already. For me, I fought hard to find internships and get involved. I would go and sit in hearings just to watch and learn other lawyers, other prosecutors, and how they did it. In doing that, I found an amazing mentor. And putting yourself in a position to observe and work with the pros, whether you are paid or not, is key to helping you make the kinds of strides that put you in front of the pack. And of course, just having the job or internship isn't enough. It is up to you to make something more out of it, and you will. The fact that you're here today, that we're all here, shows how invested you are in doing your best and serving this country. And finally, I'll say this: spend time getting to know yourself. Get introspective. Try to discern what you are looking for in life, in an employer, in a particular job. And be honest with yourself about what your qualifications are and what your dreams are. Determine what you still need to learn to not just be good, but to be great at your job. And it doesn't just help in understanding what you want. It helps in getting you where you want to go. We are strong. We are smart. We are beautiful inside and out, and we love this country, and we love our president, and we can and will make history on our own, and we don't need some government handout or help from swampy politicians in D.C., do we, ladies? No gracias. All right. And now that we're getting into the 2020 election cycle, it is time to get serious. I spent weeks last year on the campaign trail supporting candidates running for governor and for Congress across this country, and it was an incredible experience. Luckily, I had a cute guy by my side for a whole lot. That helps. By my side for a lot of it. You guys know my man, right? Donald Trump Jr. What a fighter. He is absolutely great. And being able to travel the country with him, we did 70 rallies, sometimes 6 states in a day, and many times with our great friend, Charlie Kirk. And 3 of us, we got after it. Incredible. And everybody out there, don't let the fake news fool you. There are people across this country that absolutely love President Trump. They are grateful. They turn out in record numbers because they are fighting too for pro-America, pro-Trump candidates, and they want Donald Trump reelected in 2020. Let's get it done. It was important to all of us because since 2016, President Trump has shown us all how quickly, just in 2 years of him have served office and being in the Oval Office, how quickly things can change. For this administration, it meant a stronger, safer, more prosperous America, but it could just as easily go the other way. The Democrats who are running, 21, 22, 23, 24, who knows? Who knows? Star Wars bar scene. I've lost track. All of them are running to fundamentally alter what it means to be an American because their party is angry, they are bitter, and they hate President Trump. So we must fight back against them, and we will. Over the past month, we have seen the Democrat Party become unglued, unhinged. And according to press reports, Nancy Pelosi has even called for President Trump to go to prison. She's lost her mind, okay? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? Impeached for what? Being awesome? Like, what's wrong with these people? I don't get it. Like, right? These Democrats will stop at nothing. They lost. They tried the Russian witch hunt. That failed. Hillary couldn't get elected for nothing, didn't show up in half the places. And now they are plainly calling for prison or impeachment. The notion of America has been turned upside down thanks to people like Pelosi, Jared Nadler, and Adam Schiff. And I told you about the great accomplishments of this administration, but how about the great sacrifices? Does the media report that President Trump doesn't even take a salary? Does the media report the threats of the violent left? Does the media report when my boyfriend Don Jr. has been found innocent by the Mueller report? Hell no. They don't want to tell the truth about this president, about this family, or about the great things that are happening To all the forgotten men and women in this country that are forgotten no more, thanks to President Trump. God bless him. What the media will report are the fake stories that fit into their narrative. And one after the other, these stories crumble. They fall apart. Just like the, quote, unbeatable Hillary Clinton fell in 2016. Now, who remembers the Covington, Kentucky high school students who got dragged through the mud on television before their innocence was proven? Do you remember this? Or how about Jussie Smollett and his fake attack? My gosh. Yeah, that was ridiculous. In the middle of the night, the media want us to believe that he was attacked with a noose and bleach by people yelling, MAGA nation, MAGA country. And the media went wild. We had weeks of coverage, hate crimes. The president was blamed. The pundit said this is because Donald Trump foments racism. Well, it was all lies. It never happened. It's not just fake news. It's a crime, what occurred there, and it's literally lies. Lies perpetrated by the mainstream media and the left, and we have to put a stop to it. And after weeks of investigations, thousands of dollars, and countless detective hours, all charges against him were dropped. Can you imagine the outrage if it were the other way? It's absolutely unbelievable. It's disgraceful. As a prosecutor, I cannot tell you how bad it is, what went on there. The media is not going to tell you what is happening. They will cover up the true story, the facts. But guess what? The American people are smarter than that. They know better. We are done listening to those people on TV who are labeled as experts, who lie and feed us fake news breakfast every morning. No mas. They told us Donald Trump would never be president. They told us he colluded with the Russians. They told us America will be doomed. They lie, and yet zero accountability. Every single one of you has a voice, and it is your responsibility to make sure you will tell everyone the importance of this next presidential election. Your life, our lives, the livelihood of America will depend on 2020. I am standing up here, and I can see pretty clearly. I have now 2020 vision. So guess what? If you want a clear vision for America, if you want America to succeed, if you want to have a future that is bright and prosperous, that puts America first and keeps America great, then you will re-elect President Donald Trump. Don't be fooled by Sleepy Joe or Socialist Bernie or, oh, that Pocahontas. Turns out I'm the real Puerto Rican Pocahontas. I'm 6.1% Native American Indian. Now, boy, did the president and Donald Trump Jr. have fun with that one, okay? And nothing scares leftists more, and nothing melts the snowflakes faster than a strong, smart, empowered woman who clings to her Bible and to her guns. They want to take the Second Amendment away from you and your choice, and we say, no, you won't. Leave the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Second Amendment, and all the rest alone. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to vote and make sure that they are protected, and President Trump will protect it. When I look around this room at all of the ladies here today, and a few good men, the Democrats should be shaking in their boots. And I want to close by telling you about one of my most favorite political ads of all time. In 1984, I'm sure you all just twinkles in your parents' eyes. Across the television came a historic ad that's studied in colleges and campuses across the country, narrated by President Ronald Reagan. You remember this? Yep. It's morning in America. It's morning again in America, and today more men and women will go to work than ever before in our country's history. With interest rates at about half the record highs of 1980, nearly 2,000 families today will buy new homes, more than at any other time in the past 4 years. This afternoon, he said 6,500 young men and women will be married, and with inflation at less than half of what it was just 4 years ago in America. And under the leadership of President Reagan, our country is prouder and stronger and better. Why would we ever want to return to where we were less than 4 short years ago? And here we stand again to ask that same question. And I can't help but smile from reading that, because the truth is, right now feels so much like that. When President Trump ran in 2016, he told us that he was going to make America great again. And now here we are, and it feels great to be a red-blooded, pro-Trump American woman. So for that I say this: it is morning again in America. And today, more men and women will go to work and have jobs than ever before in our country's history. With the stock market soaring to historic highs, there have been 5.4 million jobs created, and unemployment, as I said, at a 49-year low. Working class Americans are finding more money in their pockets and less in the hands of government. And nearly 5 million people are off of food stamps and feeling good about themselves and providing for their families, meaning more Americans have a path to their dreams, to the American dream. It is morning again in America. And under the leadership of President Trump, our country is prouder, it is stronger, and it is better than ever. So ask yourself and ask people, why would we ever want to return to where we were less than 4 short years ago? I want to thank you for having me. Please join me out on the campaign trail this year. Don't sit on the sidelines. Get involved like you are here today. Use your voice. Use the power of your vote to help re-elect President Donald J. Trump. God bless you. God bless America. And God bless our president. How are we on time? Where's my Charlie Kirk? I think they wanted to know if I'd do a couple questions if you have some. So we'll see who we got here. You got this, Jonathan? Okay. There we go.
Hi, my name is Kitty. I'm here as a representative for the Human Defense Initiative, a pro-life organization. So if any of you guys are interested in joining, hit me up later. So my question for you is about the pro-life movement. What can we do as young conservative women to improve it and bring more people to the pro-life movement?
I think, as you've seen in the statistics, show that there are more people joining that movement than ever before because of the education, the information out there, women and men who aren't afraid to use their voice to support and fight for the lives of unborn children. And what you see in the left and with Democrats, it has been the message is getting out there loud and clear. They are the party of socialism. They are the party of infanticide. And really, I think is one of the most important things that we're looking at in terms of this election, because with President Trump, and that's why people have to vote for him, he has put more conservative justices that respect the life of the unborn than ever before, and two phenomenal Supreme Court justices. If some people are single issue voters, just that fact alone about the Supreme Court with everything at stake is enough to be able to cast your vote for this president. And I think that's the most powerful weapon that we have. Thank you.
This will be the last question.
Hi, my name is Lauren, big fan. I go to Central Michigan University, fire up. But so a little background is when people found out I was a conservative woman, my car was egged. I was bullied. 24 eggs hit my car, and I just was constantly harassed. And I've been marked down points, things that weren't even involved with what I was learning in school, petty points, I call it. And I want to know what I could do. I have a blog, but I still want to help empower conservative women and even conservatives in general to step out and express what they believe in without being scared of what will happen. Anything you suggest, especially on a college campus.
Yes, I'll tell you something. Charlie Kirk, God bless him, has written the playbook on this because he went ahead and really creatively used social media to expose these type of crimes that are happening, the bullying, people treating conservatives and conservative women, terribly, vicious hate crimes committed against somebody just for using their voice. And now what you see is you have the power of your iPhone even. Being able to put that out, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram, and then some news media will pick that up. And I think it's important, you have to shine a light on it. It's really important to be safe in these situations, but if you can document it, then you have that evidence to put forward. And I think that's what we all have to be, very fearless and courageous, to be able to stand for one another, to be able to stand for freedom of speech and expression on campus. This shouldn't be where there's just one groupthink, and students are indoctrinated on college campuses now more than ever before. So, find groups that you can work with, like Turning Point, that's done a great job across all of the campuses. Don, Charlie, and I go and camps, across the country to different campuses, and people are out there. They're out there. You'd be surprised. And it takes maybe one person like yourself to give another 2 or 3 the courage of their voice. And that's the best advice that I can give you.
That was the last question. That was the last question.
Okay. I gotta get back to New York.
That was the last.
Okay, that was perfect. Ladies, thank you so much. And the men in this room too. Thank you for standing with us. God bless you guys. It's always a pleasure to be here. I look forward to what you're gonna do with your future.
I want to say something with you on stage.
Okay.
So, give it up again for Kimberly Guilfoyle. Is she not the best? Kimberly is going to be one of the president's secret weapons. Not so secret weapons,
Yeah,
right?
I think
Going
the
into
secret's
2020, she's on the campaign. She's going to do just absolutely amazing things, and so.
And you'll be right there.
Well, we're going to be doing our best, and for all of you out there, what an amazing icon and what an amazing role model that Kimberly Guilfoyle is. I mean, she's just is so articulate, and the way did you see her on CNN Fake News the other day? She did so amazing. She really did. And Kimberly was on our honorary board for a little while at Turning Point USA. She was, and I just want to first just thank all of our board members here that make all of this possible.
Yes,
thank you guys. Let's give it up for our amazing board members. And when I first started Turning Point USA 7 years ago, I picked up the phone to a guy named Bill Montgomery. Many of you people have met Bill, and he believed in an 18-year-old with no money and no connections and no idea what I was doing. And he had that kind of confidence in me and that belief in me. And so for those of you that are looking of how to make a difference and how to give back, believe in that 18-year-old with that vision and hard work. And I learned a lot along the way. I've made a lot of mistakes, and he believed in me. And many of you can change somebody else's life the same way that can help change the country. And Kimberly's done that and so many others. So just want to thank our amazing board members. We'll be back with more speakers in just a second. So thank you guys so much. So.
Capitalism talks a lot about abolishing profit, but it's fundamentally not profit that it gets rid of. It's purpose.
The truth is dead, and the media has murdered it.
How are we doing? Are you guys having fun? I'm having fun. I would literally rather be no other place right now than YWLS. I know yesterday I said that this was one of my favorite conferences, but I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, I think I just need to bite the bullet and say that this is my favorite conference that I come to every year. And I really mean that. I've been to a lot of awesome conferences with a lot of wonderful conservative organizations that do great things. But because this is the largest gathering of conservative young women in the country that's ever existed,
The energy is totally unmatched, the enthusiasm. It's just, I don't know, it's just edifying. I don't know how else to describe it. My dad yesterday we were in the car, he came with me, and he's here with me today, and I asked him, okay, what do you think about the introduction? Like, how did Charlie and I do? Was it good? He was like, it was fine, but the crowd was amazing. He was like, the fact that there are so many young women, so many conservative young women who are willing to give up a weekend of their summer in order to learn and to grow about these things should scare the people, he said, that say that we don't exist. And I said, amen. Absolutely. That is absolutely true. It should. I'm sure that you have been inspired and encouraged by the people that you have heard so far, and you're going to continue to. You're hearing from some of the top female leaders in this country in multiple industries, and a lot of people never get the opportunity to do that. But I think that I can probably speak for everyone who has stood on this stage. I think I can when I say that if you are inspired and encouraged by us, we are inspired even more by you guys. The fact that I can look out and I can see like-minded women who think like I do and have some of the same values that I do, that is extremely encouraging for me. Yesterday I said one of the most beautiful parts about this conference is that you get to look to your right and to your left, and you get to see people who think like you do, and that how encouraging that is and how comforting that is when sometimes you feel worried, sometimes you feel dejected, sometimes you feel discouraged by the national dialogue that's going on. You're discouraged by the things that you see your friends post on social media. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Karen from college actually thinks that. And I want you to know though that, even though I get a lot of messages, from people saying, I'm scared, I'm worried, and I always give a word of encouragement and a word of comfort. I want you to know that I get worried too. Like, I get worried as well. I get worried about the future of this country for my daughter. I think, okay, is there going to be a time in the future where it's really not okay to show patriotism? Is there going to be a time in the future where socialism truly does come to our shores? Is there going to be a time when my daughter one day, when she gets sick and the only option she's going to have is Medicare for all? I get worried about religious persecution. I get worried about religious freedom, and I get worried about freedom of speech and freedom of association. I get worried about the future, but then I come somewhere like this, and I look out, and I remember that I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I have all of you guys, that there are people who love America just as much as I do. There are people who look at the American flag and sing the national anthem and cry like I do. There are people who watch Ronald Reagan speeches in their spare time like I do. There are people who value liberty and have the same principles that I do, who are bold in their declaration of the Word of God, even when it's not popular. I'm not alone. I'm fighting alongside you guys. So I just want you to know that your presence here is just as inspirational to the people on this stage as our presence or any of our work is to you guys, if it is inspirational to you guys. And so I just want to thank you, first of all, for being here. And thank you for caring about liberty and caring about the country this much that you would take a weekend, probably maybe the first weekend of your summer, in order to do that. So I see your enthusiasm, and I'm excited. I realize that all hope is not lost, that I don't have to wake up in the middle of the night. Insomnia is very real right now, as I am very nearing birth. And sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh my gosh, where the heck is our country going? But then I see your excitement and I see your enthusiasm, and I'm reminded that hope is not lost, that there is a very bright future and can be a bright future ahead for us. Now, liberty is in jeopardy. Liberty is in jeopardy. Like, we are fighting a war that I don't think we've fought before on our shore. Like, the fight that we are fighting against totalitarianism and socialism from some of our friends on the left used to be a foreign war. Now it's not. Now it's here. And this is different. Liberty is in jeopardy. We do have a lot to fight for, but the fact that we're not alone should be encouraging. Now, when I look at you guys and I see your excitement, And I see just how much or how eager you guys are and how much potential you guys have and the opportunities that you guys are taking. It just makes me want to close my eyes and pray, God, I hope that they keep this. Like, I hope that they keep this, because now being a little bit older than you guys are, I think maybe most of y'all are probably Generation Z. I'm a sophisticated millennial. So I'm a little bit wiser than you guys. And one thing that I know is that it's hard. It's hard, and it's not going to get easier. It's not going to get easier for young conservatives, and it's especially not going to get easier for young conservative women. I would say that we, just as young women in general, no matter what side of the political aisle that you're on, we as young women are probably the most targeted group by deception than any other group in this country. We are told in a very dogmatic and bullying way that not just to be a good person or not just to be a decent human being, but to be a woman, you've got to be a diehard feminist. You've got to be for on-demand abortion. You've got to be for the radical leftist feminist agenda, or else you're not a female at all. And we buy, or many of us buy into this narrative that we have to think a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way, that celebrities or influencers or lifestyle bloggers tell us that we have to be in order to be a strong, confident woman. And I worry, I do worry about the next generation and their ability to withstand that, because here's one lie. I would say it's the main lie that I see perpetuated against, particularly targeted against young women. And it's not overtly a political lie. It's not overtly a partisan lie, but it is a lie that is so fundamental that if you believe it, it can derail your life and it will affect your politics. And that lie is this, is that you are all that matters, that life is all about you, that your only purpose is to serve yourself, your only purpose is to be yourself, whatever that means. Your only purpose in life is to do what makes you happy. If you haven't noticed, if you've logged on to Instagram at any point in the past 5 years, we live in this age that I like to call trendy narcissism. We are told that the only thing that matters is that you love yourself, that you care for yourself, that you prioritize yourself, that you cut the toxic out of your life, and that you only do what feels good to you. We're told that there are no rules, there are no principles, there are no standards that you have to abide by. As long as you feel something is right, as long as you feel something is good, we are told by the mainstream culture that that's fine. That's what we as women need to believe. There's no such thing as regret. There's no such thing as guilt or shame or right or wrong or shoulds or shouldn'ts. No, you just do you, we're told. That's the only thing that matters. We are part of these generations that are obsessed. We are obsessed with personal happiness. We are obsessed with finding ourselves and finding whatever thing gratifies us most. And yet, ironically, we are not happy. Not relatively anyway. We are some of the most anxious, the most discontent, and the most purposeless feeling generations in our country compared with baby boomers, compared to the silent generation, compared to the greatest generation. We struggle with feeling empty. We struggle with feeling lonely. It's amazing that with billions, or I don't know how much the industry is worth, $1 billion industry telling us how to be happy and how to be ourselves and how to fulfill ourselves and gratify our desires, that we're still so unhappy. And here's why. Because we keep buying something that our souls don't want us to buy. There are two fundamental things that I think are obliterated when we believe that we are the center of our universes, that we are the only thing that matters, that the only thing that matters is to satisfy yourself. There are two things that human beings need to flourish that with that mindset go out the window, and that is truth and purpose. And the reason is, when you believe that you are the center of your universe, you believe that you are your own God. And if you believe that you are your own God, that means you determine your own truth, that you determine your own morality, that you determine your own purpose. And when everything is subjective, things get very confusing. And so when you believe that you are the highest authority that you have in your life, you believe that truth is relative. We have replaced the truth with my truth. We have replaced doing what is right with doing what feels right to me. And this is precisely why we cannot have rational conversations about things anymore. We can't have rational conversations about what a woman is, or what a man is. We used to think that was decided by science. No, it's not decided by science anymore. It's actually decided by how you feel. It's why we can't have a rational conversation about when human life begins. Something that was decided by embryologists a long time ago. Now it's, well, is it a human being? It might be a human being, depending on if you want it or not. So we've started setting these arbitrary standards for what is and what isn't, based on not any reality, not any science, not any objective truth, but what my truth is. And that's exactly what happens when you believe that you are the God of your own life, that you are the only thing that matters. It also obliterates purpose. When we believe that our purpose is to serve ourselves and to be ourselves and to only do that which makes us happy, we end up very unfulfilled, because any real purpose necessitates sacrifice. Any real purpose necessitates sacrifice, the very thing that we as young women are told that we should avoid. We should avoid sacrifice. We should avoid discomfort. We should avoid inconvenience at all cost. Yet real purpose demands sacrifice. You guys probably knew that it was just the 75th anniversary of D-Day, and I took some time to read some of the stories from D-Day, to listen to their stories, and to just revel in the courage, the bravery, the valor that these men showed that day. The reason why we call this generation, the World War II generation, the GI generation as they're known, the greatest generation, is not because they perfected self-love. I can tell you that. It's not because they perfected their self-care routine. It's because they practiced selflessness. In fact, every hero that you have, I guarantee you, every hero that you have is your hero because they sacrificed something, because they laid down their wants, they laid down their needs, they laid down what felt good to them for the good of other people and for the good of a cause that was greater than themselves. And yet we're told that we shouldn't strive to that. No, the greatest thing that you can do in life is be autonomous and authentic. Those are the only two values that we have, autonomous and authentic. You should have control of your life and you should be yourself. I think it's laughable. It's laughable to think that we as women, that's all that we're capable of. That we're not capable of laying down our conveniences or laying down our comfort for the sake of something that is bigger than ourselves. And I promise you, if you live as if your only purpose is yourself, your only purpose is making yourself happy, you will end up lonely and miserable. Because the only things that are worth pursuing in this life, the only things that are worth holding on to, demand sacrifice and discomfort. That is from your job, that is from your activism, to marriage, to having children. All of these things demand that you lay down some things that you want, some things that feel good for the cause of other people, for the good of other people, and for something that is bigger than you. You are called to put wants and needs of other people before yourself. So what is this purpose that is outside of ourselves? What is this thing that we can do that is bigger than ourselves? Well, put really simply, and of course it's always more complicated than this when we are in the thick of it, but find the intersection of your strengths and what the world around you needs and work hard to do it. Do what you are good at. Do what you are talented in for the glory of God. Now, that's not always easy. We don't always know what exactly that looks like. You might be someone in college and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do after graduation. I'm not even really sure if I'm going to use my major. So what I'll say, just a practical aside really fast, is just do the next right thing. Do the next right thing. You don't need to have your life figured out right now. I didn't know that I would be doing this when I graduated from college. I graduated with a degree in communication studies. I took a job in public relations because I thought, okay, that's somewhat in the realm of what I want to do. I knew very quickly that's not what I wanted to do. I knew very quickly that I wanted to do this, and I had no idea how I was going to get there. So what I did is that I took jobs and I did jobs that I didn't really like, that weren't my dream jobs, that didn't make me, wake up in the morning all excited to go to work because I had to, in order to make the path that I wanted to go on, in order to do what I feel like I was ultimately called to do. So in order to find a purpose that is bigger than yourself, you find that intersection of what the world needs around you, what your strengths are, and you work hard at it for the glory of God. And if you don't know what that is long term, you just do the next right thing. So whatever you do, whatever it is that you do it with truth and pursue purpose. Now, I would be remiss, I believe, if you listen to my podcast, you probably know that I'm going to bring this up at some point. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about where truth and purpose actually come from. The reason that people abandon truth and purpose and are subsequently empty and confused and lacking is because they have exchanged the God of Scripture for the God of self. They've exchanged the God of Scripture for the God of self. The God of Scripture is the determinant of all truth and the giver of all purpose. The God of self leads you nowhere. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for man. So if you want purpose, use what you have for the good of others and the glory of God, not simply for the good and the glory of yourself. If you want truth, you go to the creator of the universe and the source of all truth. You don't have to be confused. You don't have to wait in chaos and not know what the truth is. We have the source of truth ourselves. And of course, I also just have to say that the highest purpose for a Christian, and I don't know what your faith is in here, maybe you don't share my Christian faith, but the highest purpose, if you don't know what to do with your life and you are a Christian woman, here's what I can tell you is your highest and most eternal purpose. You share the gospel with your mouth and with your life. And what the gospel is that God loved you so much that he sent his son to die for you, to reconcile an unholy people to a holy God with Jesus Christ, that he who became sin knew no sin, that we might become the righteousness of God. That is your purpose. But in all that you do, no matter what your faith is, in all that you do, find that intersection of what the world needs and what you're good at and pursue purpose with your whole heart, being willing to lay down the things that you want in your comfort and convenience for the good of other people and for a cause that is bigger than you. Ronald Reagan said that if we ever forget that we are one nation under God, we will be one nation gone under. And I absolutely believe that's true. Because the reason why we have been the greatest country in the world, the reason why we've always been the greatest country in the world is because we have been a people defined by truth and purpose. Other countries know this. And if truth and purpose both come from God, then it doesn't make any sense for us not to be a nation under God. And if we do, we will no longer be the greatest nation on earth. I promise you that. And so pursue truth and pursue purpose and fight as hard as you can. And I promise you, there is hope for this country. Thank you. So I think we're taking questions for about 10 minutes. So we've got some time.
Hello, I'm Sophia, and I love you. Thank you for being my role model. But what I wanted to ask is I know that your Christian beliefs are a huge part of why you're pro-life, and as a fellow Christian, they are for me too.
Yeah.
So I wondered if you had any advice on arguing to people who aren't Christians on why they should be pro-life, specifically regarding the value of human life because they don't have a basis for that.
Yeah. So I would say even people, so I heard someone say this in a really interesting way. So even people who are not Christians, who maybe are totally atheist, you appeal to human compassion that is actually a reflection of the image of God, whether they accept it or not. The fact of the matter is that most people who say that they don't value life inside of the womb, that it's not a clump of cells, they're not willing to apply that to people outside of the womb, and yet there's no logical reason why. So if they say, well, it's because it's young, it's because it's an embryo, then you ask, okay, so is people's value based on age? Well, it's because it's in the woman's body. So is a person's value based on location? Well, it's because it's small. Okay, is a person's value based on size? Okay, well, it's because it's not sentient or it doesn't feel pain. Okay, are you saying that people with special needs don't have value? Okay, it's because they're not wanted. So are you saying that the entire homeless population or people who aren't wanted outside of the womb, that they should be killed too? The fact of the matter is, whether someone is religious or not, they're usually not willing to apply the logic that they apply to unborn babies to people outside of the womb, and they cannot tell you why. The fact of the matter is that being pro-choice is illogical. It's just illogical. Unless you are a completely moral relativist and you believe that rape is okay, you believe that murder outside of the womb is okay, there's no logical reason outside of there actually having to be some kind of surgery before the 3rd trimester to save the life of the mother, in which, unfortunately, inadvertently, the baby dies. There is no logical reason outside of that, which is a very rare case before the 3rd trimester. There's no logical reason, no logical, no philosophical, no moral reason whatsoever to be pro-choice. There's just not.
Hi, Allie. My name is Cassidy, and I'm from Dallas. I was just wondering if you had any advice for someone who wants a career in politics but doesn't have those political connections yet.
Yeah. So I didn't have, when I first started, I know I'm not in politics. Are you talking politics or political media or just? Okay, anything. So I didn't have connections. I mean, I knew some people in local politics, but I didn't exercise any of those connections. And so I would go back to saying kind of what I said at the end of this is do the next right thing, make the opportunities or make the connections that you can. So when I was first starting out, I had a full-time job. I would just reach out to people that I knew maybe had small conservative outlets or who had some kind of small sphere of influence and say, can I speak at this local Republican group for free? I just want to do it for free and I just want to speak for 15 minutes. Or, hey, can I write an article for free on your website? Here's, some examples of my writing in the past. So take opportunities for free. Be willing to, as you're working full time and of course making money, because for practical purposes that's important, take opportunities to do things for free. People really don't turn that down typically, and master your craft and show them that you are adding value by speaking at their meeting or writing on their website or making whatever connection that you're making. I first got started by reaching out to, I was, like I said, working full time, and I started reaching out to sorority presidents. I lived in Athens, Georgia, and I reached out to sorority presidents because we lived really close and just said, hey, can I come speak to your sorority totally for free about why you should vote in the primaries? And this was 2015, and some of them didn't respond, but some of them did. And I just gave a presentation and I loved it. And then I started getting asked to speak at more places. And then after, a few years, it turned into an actual career. So be willing to put yourself out there and work for free. Those are the 2 pieces of advice I would give.
Hey, Allie, I'm just a huge fan of your Relatable
Thank you.
podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
My question comes in the concept of the triangle, or the golden triangle of freedom with virtue, faith, freedom. In order to have freedom, you need virtue. Virtue needs faith. Faith needs freedom.
Yeah.
In the growing secular society, do you believe we can prop up virtue and freedom without faith, or do you think that faith is something we can restore in culture?
I don't think so. I think that if you see every culture in every country, the more godless they are, the more progressive they are. That's just a fact. Now, I'm not saying that every single person who is progressive or on the left side of the aisle is not a Christian. Obviously, I believe that there are some serious conflicts there. But as you see societies become more godless, they become more communistic. As God moves to the center of a country, people become more free, and people of all faiths end up flourishing. It's not possible to have virtue without faith. Again, that doesn't mean that everyone who is not a Christian cannot be a good person. There are people who have a strong moral compass and they say that they don't believe in God. But in general, if you are not tethered to something other than the government to tell you what is right and what is wrong, which really is what virtue is, then no, everything becomes relative. Everything is subjective, and the government becomes God. And the government is not a merciful God.
So I was gonna ask you a question about when would be the proper time to share my story, because my birth mom was raped when she was 15, and then she almost had an abortion, but she decided not to. And so I was gonna.
That's awesome.
So I was gonna ask when would be a good time to start sharing that with people and your sorority idea gave me like an idea because I go to the U of A in Arkansas, and so like that's like a great platform to like, go around and share that. But I more so just wanted to thank you for like standing up for those who like don't have a voice, like people like me, because like I didn't. So
thank you. Well, thank God that you're here. Seriously, I mean, if there's anything that speaks to the presence and the sovereignty of God, it is someone like you and your willingness to share your testimony. You can argue against someone's logic. You can argue against their perspective. You cannot argue against someone's testimony, and you have a powerful testimony to what happens when women can make that responsible and difficult choice of keeping their child. And so absolutely, I would say take those free opportunities, perfect your story, write it out, say it in front of the mirror a million times. That's what I used to do when I first started out. Really make it as compelling and as succinct as you possibly can, and then reach out to people and just say, hey, totally for free, nonpartisan, if it is nonpartisan, I just want to share my story. I think it's going to encourage people at this sorority or this. It might be easier to get into a Republican group or whatever it is. Start sharing your story for free, perfect your story, and I think that you will have a powerful impact.
This is going to be the last question.
Okay.
Hi, Allie. My name is Hayden, and I love you so much. My question is, as a conservative Christian woman, how do I join my moral opposition to homosexuality and my advocacy for small government within the argument surrounding the legalization of gay marriage? Ben Shapiro believes government shouldn't have any say in marriage at all. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, my mic was turned off, and I said that I like your jumper, and so I just want to reiterate that. I really like jumpers, and if I could still wear them, I would, but I can't. Okay, so this is a difficult question. I actually talked to Dave Rubin about this, which was a difficult platform to share my views on biblical marriage because he is married to a man. He's a wonderful person, and his husband is wonderful, but as a Christian, I believe that the Bible is very clear that marriage is to be between a man and a woman. Not a popular position to have. Not a popular position to have at all when people, unfortunately, conflate beliefs with hate, and that's not true at all. You can love someone and still disagree with their lifestyle. Now, as far as the role of the government, I mean, that decision has already been made. Do I believe that it should be a state's right, whether or not they want to ban gay marriage? That's never going to happen, but yeah, it should be their right. But I agree with the position that the state does not define marriage. The state was never meant to define marriage, that marriage was and always will be a religious and a biblical institution, and God has already defined it. And it's not up to man to change it. Now, we're never going to have to be in the position, probably, again, to vote one way or the other. And so it's funny, it's an argument that's always brought up by the left of like, which way will you vote? And you don't even have to really answer it because you're not going to have to. You know what the Bible says. You know what you believe. You can still say, I believe that the government should be out of marriage. That's a really good, just kind of like easy libertarian answer to give to a question that I think is ultimately irrelevant. As long as you stay true to what you know the Bible says and you love those around you, no matter who they are and no matter what they look like, and you serve them and you show them the love of Christ, I think that's all that really matters. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you guys so much.
We have to say no more. You are not allowed to poison our kids. You can try, but we are going to fight you every single day. We are not going to allow you to do this. We are going to back up policies that will change this.
have not seen a crowd this big in so long. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here. And by the way, that video that Benny did, I was completely surprised by it. I had no idea. I thought I was just going to walk out here and someone was going to introduce me. Thank you. I'm here today because I believe in what Turning Point USA is doing. I believe in what you all are doing every single day, and I think we live in a remarkable time. I want to tell you a little story about what it means for me to be a woman in an industry that is certainly tough and fraught with challenges, and I've spent the last 2 decades covering investigative journalism most of the time, throughout most of my career, and I could prove it to you if you could come to my house. My drawers are filled with combat boots and slacks and, T-shirts and gear to go into war. It's not the same for me now over the last 2 years that I've been covering the Russia investigation. Which I am grateful every moment that I wake up of every day that I've been given this opportunity to do this. But when I first started reporting, I started in a mid-sized newspaper in California. I worked at the Daily Bulletin in Ontario, California, and covered local news, mostly crime, mostly gangs, social issues that I thought affected our community, and I wanted to make a change. I wanted to expose the truth, and I wanted people to know what was happening on the local level in their own communities. So I started out small, started covering the gangs, started covering the school systems, broke a lot of great stories. I don't think any of you would remember. I did a story called Jamie's Story, which garnered national attention, and it was about a girl that was born into La M and her life and getting away from that life before it took her in. It was an 8-month project. I did a multi-part series, and this was probably about 16 years ago. She was 16 years old then. Jamie and I are still close friends. I love her dearly. She is married now, has 3 beautiful children, has a great job, and her life has been a remarkable example of what is possible when someone actually cares about someone else enough to make a difference, and she did. I want to throw that out to her. One of the big changes in my life came after doing the Gangland stories. I moved from there to the US-Mexico border because in my community in California, and I want to move back here because I feel like I can't see the whole audience. In my community in California, we had enormous problems with gangs and young people actually, killing each other on the streets. The drugs were rampant, arms were being trafficked back and forth. We had enormous issues. The border was a crisis even then. So when I hear border crisis, I'm thinking, where did everybody go? Didn't they know it was a crisis for a long time? And so I told my editors, look, we can't just cover the community. We need to go to the border and find out what's going on. And he said, I don't know if I want to let you go to the border. You're a young lady. I don't want to send you out there. It's very dangerous. I said, look, let me do my job. Let's start with San Diego. I'll move back and forth, and we'll cover the whole 2,000-mile border. I promise you I'll be good. I didn't. I wasn't that good. I would crisscross in and out of Mexico. I spent about maybe 8 months covering the US-Mexico border from San Diego all the way to Matamoros, Texas. Yeah, all the way to the border of Matamoros. So and I brought back a series of stories that exposed both corruption, the porous border, the effects of that, the drug cartels, both in Mexico with the people that were living there and in the United States. And it sparked my interest. And I'll never forget that I was telling someone this story the other day. It was the reason why I went to Washington, D.C. There was an older reporter by the name of Jerry Sieper who worked for the Washington Times. And he called me at the Daily Bulletin and he said, "Would you give an old guy a break? Would you just give an old guy a break?" And I said, "Well, who's this?" He said, "This is Jerry Sieper from the Washington Times. I can't catch up with you on the border, so I want to know if you want to come to Washington, D.C. and work with us. You just got to promise not to do it on the border anymore." And I said, "Well, if you give me a job at the Pentagon and I can cover the war and terrorism, then I'll go." And that's exactly what they did. Yeah. And it was tough. I didn't realize what I'd be asking for. Spent the majority of my career after coming to Washington, D.C., flying to Afghanistan, spending months at a time out on the front lines with our troops in battle along the Afghan-Pakistan border. I think I traveled through the entire region of Afghanistan, sometimes just, and never with security. By the way, I wasn't as aware of what was going on. I think I called myself Winnie the Pooh, so I just thought, I'm just gonna go with the flow. But I had a lot of Afghan sources and friends, and I wanted to see what life was not only like for our soldiers, but what it was like for the Afghan people. And this is where it comes to you. As young women, and there's men in this audience too, and I think you can appreciate this. I spent a lot of time in villages in both southern Afghanistan and northern Afghanistan, where women, not in Kabul, there was a little difference there, but in the majority of Afghanistan where women were not allowed to make their own choices or decisions, the majority of the women that I knew, and it was unique that I was a journalist in the war zone, a female journalist, because I could talk to the women, whereas male journalists were not allowed. They didn't have access to them. So I was able to get a whole different perspective. I remember meeting a young girl. We were at a clinic for opioid addiction, actually, in Afghanistan. And she saw the female Afghan doctor, she saw me, and she looked around kind of stunned and she said, "Women can work?" And she said it through a translator, and I said, "Oh yes, where I'm from, almost all the women work. Some women stay home, some women work." And she said to me, with tears in her eyes, "I will never, ever be able to go to school, finish school, have a job, do what you do." It makes me want to cry. Because she was beholden to her father's arranged marriage. She was 12 or 13 years old, and the man that she was to be married with was in his late 60s and was an elder of a village. The reason why I bring this up is because we have such extraordinary freedoms in this country and in the Western world, but particularly in the United States, freedoms that are worth fighting for, liberty. That's why I do what I do. That's why I am not worried. Sometimes people say, "Aren't you afraid? Weren't you concerned about your life or about what you were doing at that time?" I said no, because one, I wanted the American people to be educated and to understand what was happening on the war front, the real stories, what our soldiers were going through, what decisions were being made by Congress, how that was being affected as a whole, what happened to the soldier that lived in the small town of Laramie, Wyoming, who lost his life on the front lines. Why did he give his life? Well, I'll tell you why. For everything that this country stands for everything that you're doing here today. Every time you get up in the morning and you think about your day, or you think about how, and I do too, it's gonna be a tough day. I don't know if I'll be able to get through it. you always got to sit back and think, well, somebody else has it a little worse. I think to myself, wow, no matter how tired I get, and believe me, sometimes I get tired. And actually, I want to thank Turning Point USA today for giving me a night off from my good friend Sean Hannity's show. He probably is not happy tonight. I'm sure he'll find someone to fill in, somebody with a great story. Hopefully John Solomon broke one today. Yeah, definitely. John definitely gets a good shout out. But it's different, right? This is about leadership. This is about being women, empowering women, conservative women, being great leaders, not being afraid to stand up for what you believe in and doing it with grace and dignity and really taking a look at what's happening in the world and challenging yourself to make it better. And sometimes it's easy to say, you know what? I'm not cut out for this. This is going to be too much. Believe me, I've thought that many times in my life where I've said, I just want to put it down. I don't want to deal with this. If I do this story, it's going to open up a whole new can of worms, and there'll go 2 years of my life again. It's worth it. It's worth it every minute of every day. I look at my young daughters. I have a 19-year-old, beautiful 19-year-old named Sophia, and Annalise, who's 6, their big age gap. But I look at them and I think to myself, they have such an amazing future. They are in the greatest nation on earth, right? The greatest nation on earth, where anything is possible as long as you believe it, as long as you are willing to believe it. Now, I know there's so much I could talk about, but I want to leave a good portion of my time for questions, because I think that it's so much better if we're interactive than me just talking to you. But as I wrap up this and go to questions, I want to bring you to what led me to investigate everything that we've seen unfold in the recent 2.5 years regarding the investigation into our great president, Donald Trump. Great president. And I bring this up for one reason. Because President Trump and his family, in the very beginning, I didn't know them. I didn't know them at all. Honestly, I did not know who. I knew Trump had a TV show. I thought it was great. We'd see it sometimes. He'd fire people. Then he became the president. But before that, I was working at Sinclair with John Solomon, and I ended up actually covering the campaign. And that's exactly how I ended up, interviewing President Trump. I had to interview him for the Sinclair networks. And then I remember this quite vividly, all of the situations that happened with the Hillary Clinton investigation and all of the things that just didn't add up and all of the leaks, highly classified leaks. Now, remember, I worked in mostly covering U.S. intelligence. So I knew that a lot of the stuff that was leaking was considered extremely classified information that should have never been out there in the public, should have never been in a newspaper, should have never been reported on cable news. And I was thinking, well, when are some of these people going to get arrested? Is there going to be an investigation? I started asking questions. And then one day, I was contacted by a source. And this actually happened to John Solomon as well. And I met with this source who dealt with very highly classified information. And they said, you need to start investigating. Something very corrupt is going on. I believe there's been an abuse of our intelligence apparatus, what was meant to protect this country from foreign threats, such as Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, ISIS, all the players that we know about, and other foreign actors, has been abused, and possibly weaponized against this, against then candidate Trump and then President Trump's administration. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I don't know. This can't be true. I don't want to believe this, but I'm going to look into it because the source, I trusted the source. Once that happened, it set me off on a journey that has now been, well, more than 2.5 years of investigations, of congressional investigations, of personal time and hard work investigations. As women, we have a very good sixth sense. We can, don't we? We do. We have it. We see things differently too, which is why it's so important for women to go into careers too that were, mostly dominated by men. I mean, a war correspondent, I think I used to run into Lara Logan. Please, yes, give Lara Logan a big round of applause. She's amazing. She has been through so much. Cheryl Atkinson with CBS, she's amazing. Kelly Kennedy. But there weren't very many women in the war zone. So I had a sixth sense that there was something wrong here. And I begged John. I remember running into John's office. John, we got to look into Andy McCabe. What? Who's Andy McCabe? You're talking the deputy FBI director? I said, yeah, absolutely. We have to look into it. He made a couple of calls. I went back in his office the next day. First, he didn't believe it. I hope John's watching this. He made a couple of calls. I walked back in his office, and he goes, shut the door. We have to talk. This is so important. We got to work on this. And that's where we started. So now, I'm here today before you, all you young women who have so much to look forward to, such an amazing future. Some of you are in high school, some of you are in college, some of you are older, and on your own journeys, each individual journeys. And I just want to say, please, 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 gain the strength that groups like Turning Point USA give you to be strong as a unit, to believe in yourselves, to not be afraid to take those challenges that life puts out in front of you, and to challenge yourself to be a better person. The world is such a remarkable place, and we live in the greatest nation on earth. And if any, yes, please, we do. We live in the greatest nation on earth. And it's our job to protect that and to take that out to the rest of the world. So be an example, for those young children and those young girls that I met in Afghanistan, and those girls I met in Pakistan, and the young Yazidi kids I met on the mountains in, Shingal in Iraq. They look to us for strength too. And be great conservative women. And now I'm going to open it up to questions. Thank you.
The first one's going to be right here. Hi, my name is Natalie. I'm from Pittsburgh.
Hi, Natalie.
So a lot of people are really, there's a lot of different beliefs about having troops over in the Middle East and that. What do you believe on your stance of the vitality of having troops over there and what the impact of it is?
I think each area is individual. And in Afghanistan, the biggest issues, they changed over time. So when I first traveled to Afghanistan, I believed that the most important thing at that time, and the troops would say, was give us the tools so we could do our job and take the Taliban out so that it won't happen again. Those policies kept changing and shifting. Right now in the Middle East, I think it's vital that we show our presence. And I don't necessarily mean a military presence, but we We can't be isolationists. We have to know what's happening there, and particularly with Iran and its encroachment throughout the Middle East, and our great ally Israel, that we certainly, yes, absolutely. Israel is so important to us, and I think that, for me, is an important factor when you're thinking about the Middle East. It is important for us to be close to our allies. As far as having troops in there, I've seen that up close and personal, and I've seen the longest war in Afghanistan tear apart lives. My husband was blinded in 2011 in Afghanistan, and so I live with that every day. He's amazing. The guy, you would never guess he was blind. He's so incredible. But he said, you know, so this is something that affects all of us as a country. That's why I say educate yourselves. Learn what's happening, not just here, but all over the world, and make those really important decisions. So for your question, it would depend on what part of the world you're talking about. I personally believe that it is a decision that has to be well thought out. When you send people into battle, people will die. They will die. And so for any leader to make a decision like that, it's got to be very tough. But it's definitely worth the fight if we're protecting our nation and our national security.
Absolutely. This will be the last question.
Hi there, my name is Bethany Parker. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. I was raised overseas in an Arab country. I speak Arabic, and I'm pursuing a degree in Arabic in California right now. So kind of similar situation. I moved back to the United States in junior high, kind of on the cusp of the whole radical feminist movement that's happening right now. Seeing that taking place for me was really confusing because I came from a country very similar to the story that you were explaining, where like girls didn't have, like as a girl growing up there, even as a foreigner, I wasn't allowed to play outside with the boys, like that type of thing. Girls aren't allowed to vote, drive, and stuff like that over there. So my question for you is, what do you think is causing the ignorance of the feminist movement here in the United States, claiming that they have no rights? Because in my eyes, I mean, here we have everything, and you know, it doesn't make sense to me when they say that we're fighting for rights. It's almost like a willful ignorance. So my question for you would be, what do you think the cause is of this belief in we don't have rights and we need to fight for rights in this country?
It's crazy, I know. I know. I grew up in Saudi Arabia, so I understand where you're coming from. I did too grow up in Saudi Arabia, so I get exactly what you're saying. I don't know where this comes from. I say spend a week, spend 3 days in Afghanistan with me in a village. You'll meet remarkable people, but you'll realize as a woman, you have absolutely no rights. None. Nobody is going to come for you. Nobody is going to protect you. If you're raped, if somebody accuses you of something, you are at the mercy of your family and the tribe. There's no rights or laws there. As for the United States, I'm stunned every time I hear things like, we don't have rights, we need to, I'm like, what do you want? What is it that you're looking, we have everything. Of course, we have to thank those women before us, and even the women today. I mean, there are issues that we face as women. I know I work in a mostly male-dominated world of print reporting, but it's not anything we can't deal with because we have laws that protect us. We're able to challenge those wrongs if they occur. So I think we have to be smart. I think some people just try to rile other people up with issues that are not, how do I say it? I didn't want to use the word fake. I know, I was thinking it with, yeah. So sometimes, you know, and sometimes people really do feel wronged, but there has to be a sense of balance. And I think as conservative young women, especially, you know, now, given the opportunities that you have, these are issues that you can challenge. You're not victims. We are not victims. We are a part of the fabric of this society. We are part of what makes our country great, a part of what makes the world great, and we have to utilize that. I think people who play into this victim mentality, which I've seen on the left, and it's exactly what you're talking about, they drag everything back. Move forward. We don't need to feel like victims. We are going to succeed as long as we put our minds to it, as women or as men, you know, and face those challenges and deal with the issues that have burdened us, but don't live into them. And it's really unfortunate because I think that we're seeing that more and more every day now. And I just hope that with groups like Turning Point, we can turn that around, especially in the colleges. People can actually see, you know, what's going on and make a difference. So, thank you. Thank you. I didn't know. Okay, you have one. Okay, just one. She doesn't need a mic.
Justice for, thank you. Do you really think there's going to be justice for all of the bad players in what happened in this last election? Because whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, it should never happen. What happened to Donald Trump should never happen, and there was some really bad players. So do you think we'll see justice?
We will see justice. Oh, yeah, we're going to see justice. You're exactly right. What happened in our country over the last several years, what we've uncovered, Judicial Watch has uncovered, Congress has uncovered, should never, ever happen in this country again. Ever. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we can't afford to lose this country. And what happened was something that you only see happen in places like the former Soviet Republic or Russia now, or places like I've been to in Pakistan, where the government, where the apparatus, the intelligence community weaponizes its own to take out leaders. William Barr will do his job. Thank you, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Kimberly Guilfoyle, Allie Stuckey, and Sarah Carter.
Amazing, all of
Beautiful, inspiring women, great speeches. So we have a quick announcement. The Nikki Haley dinner is happening in